While the ANC's Electoral Commission has upheld its decision disqualifying Bathabile Dlamini from contesting for an NEC position, it comes ahead of the party's National Elective Conference that officially kicks off this Friday. The decision barring Dlamini, of course, taken after she was convicted of perjury for giving false testimony in the Constitutional Court in a matter relating to the payment of grants. The former ANC Women's League president, in her appeal, argued that electoral rules contradict the party's constitution. Earlier, the commission reversed its decision, disqualifying Tony Yengeni after he produced evidence that his criminal record had been expunged. While then joining us in studio tonight, ANC NEC member Tony Yengeni. Mr. Yengeni, good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Feeling victorious?
Well, I'm glad that finally this has come to pass in the manner in which it has done. But I'm not too happy about how this whole matter was handled by Khalima and his committee. I think they should have done a better job.
How do you think they could have handled it differently?
I think that, firstly, there was undue haste. And secondly, if they observed my constitutional right to a fair hearing, I would have answered all the questions coming my way, or even give me a call on my cell phone. I would have clarified whatever needed to. But, and therefore, this whole drama of disqualifying without relevant information, and then me having to appeal, and them having to respond to the appeal, etc., it was really unnecessary.
Do you think that the undue haste is as a result of the fact that we're literally on the doorstep of the conference? No.
In fact, it would have been even quicker if they gave me a shout or called me in to answer the 2 or 3 questions. Or they clarified that very easily, because the case that they're referring to was widely publicized, both here and abroad. And even the internal ANC DC process was covered very widely by the media. So this is not something that is obscure, that they couldn't get to the detail.
So what do you think the intention was? Because it seems to me that you're suggesting that there may have been other considerations, perhaps even motives at play.
Take into account that this is a well-publicized case and they could have secured this information quite easily. I'm not sure what was the intention. Maybe they're the best people to answer that question. But it leaves a sour taste in the mouth. Because when this thing came out, it went viral, both in normal media and social media. And I felt that someone is trying to embarrass me and to humiliate me, because this thing could have been handled in a much more decent manner.
Do you give them the benefit of the doubt, though, given the fact that the appeals process has been successful?
I'm happy that it has been successful, but I'm still very unhappy about the fact that they dragged my name through the mud. And after doing that, they don't even have the decency to say we erred on this one and we apologize. No apology, nothing. Even though I think to a large extent they should have held this thing in a better way. I ask myself, what kind of vetting process is this where you can find the most basic information?
The statement, of course, that has been issued in terms of the success of your appeal, is the tone of it seems to be quite conciliatory. They even thank you for your cooperation in the matter, and continue to also wish you well in your future endeavors.
Well, the horses have bolted, and the damage has been done. And you yourself will know better than I do that when some of these kinds of news hit the social media platforms, they just go crazy. And I had to myself respond to those people who were asking me questions. And people were concerned. They were asking me, you know, even family members. I mean, I even got a text from a colleague of mine from China, who's a member of the Chinese Communist Party. Because she came across this thing on social media. So all that drama was really, really not necessary. And I think it has left an egg on their face.
It happens going into conference, which we understand is going to be a very difficult time in as far as tension within the party, because we've been seeing various tensions between members of your organization play itself out. Is it going to be another festival of chairs?
I don't think so. In particular, I think these rules by Halima and his committee, in my view, they must be placed before conference and adopted by conference. Because they are, and the manner in which they are implementing them, are going to create very serious problems, not only for the individuals involved, but even for the conference itself. But when it comes to a festival of chairs, I don't foresee that kind of thing happening. And I think that the African National Congress and its leadership have the wherewithal to manage whatever tensions arise. And at the end of the day, at the end of the duration of the conference, we'll have a smooth conclusion.
It also comes on the back of what we saw happening in Parliament yesterday, where various ANC MPs, at least 5 of them, voted out of what was the party line. And it's brought up issues of discipline within the organization and the extent to which members actually respect what is described as the party line. How do you think that this matter is going to be dealt with? And do you think it's something that should be resolved ahead of the conference in terms of these individuals that have said to have defied the party?
We have an NEC meeting tomorrow afternoon, which will be our last meeting before conference. And I expect this matter to come before the NEC. But my take is that this is not the first time it's happened. It has happened before. Where members of the NEC, who are MPs, voted against when Zuma was the president. They voted for a no confidence vote in Parliament. And many of them were known, and some of them confessed about it. And nothing happened. None of them were hauled before the DC of the ANC. And if there's a call that the comrades who voted yes in Parliament yesterday, that they must appear before the DC, then that must apply to even those that came before them. The law must be applied equally to all, not to some and not others.
Do you think that this is a moment of reckoning for your organization, in that there have been inconsistencies over the years, and now we are at a point where these inconsistencies are affecting different sides or even factions of the party in a way that perhaps has not happened before? And we're seeing now a push for consistency from both sides, but sometimes, of course, seen to be driven by very different interests.
As far as I'm concerned, I think the essence of the tensions and the divisions that you see come as a result of the manner in which we conduct our business within the structures. For example, generations before us took time and had the patience to debate, discuss, and after some time come to a conclusion or a consensus. And then that becomes the direction the ANC take. It was never a situation that one faction or one group or one view is imposed on the collective. And that's why and how the ANC survived for 100 years. because leaders before us, who came before us, were able to ensure that whatever big issue comes before us, we have time to debate and discuss, and then even when we don't find each other, they nudge us together until we come to that point where we embrace. It was never a situation where others go this way and others go that way. But now, today, that's very, very common.
But would you say that that happened between 2017 and 2018, when the party was incredibly divided over what the future of former President Jacob Zuma should be?
As I'm saying, the moment you move away from tried and tested principles and traditions of the movement that has kept it together for this long, you are going to come across resistance. And therefore, for example, if this matter of the party position of yesterday was conducted in a different manner, where all voices were taken into account, probably this thing would have fared much better than yesterday.
The difficulty is that while internally members of the organization have these fights, the picture that it creates of the party from an outsider looking in is an unstable organization, and quite frankly an organization that can't be trusted. Do you think that the ANC is going to survive this moment, being intact and being a party that can still govern this country?
The ANC will survive this phenomenon if it tries to stick to its own organizational principles and traditions, and not come with something new, something alien, something some of us don't know.
What's new and alien?
What's new and alien is exactly what I've just said, that in days gone by, the leadership of the ANC would take time to come to certain conclusions and would want to listen to everybody. They would not cut out certain people and want to listen to certain people. We worked as a collective, and whatever decisions was embraced by everybody. But at this point in time, it's not like that. There are moments where we discuss something, and at the end, you don't recognize what that something is, because your views have just been discarded completely.
It's interesting because just, today, many South Africans have been reflecting on a statement made by Bathabile Dlamini Zuma, I think it was around 2017-18, where she spoke about how when the NEC has met, regardless of how much disagreement there has been in the meeting, once a position has been taken, then everybody has to toe that particular line. So what is different between that and what you are saying about what is happening today? Is that not the way that the NEC has always operated?
What is different is that during those days, when the leadership realizes that there's very little agreement on this matter, they would go even further. We would sit in a meeting until 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, because we're trying to ensure that everybody is nudged forward to come to a certain consensus. At some point, they would even say, okay, comrade so-and-so and comrade so-and-so, can you leave the meeting, go outside, knock this thing together, try and find a compromise, a consensus, come back to the meeting and present that consensus. That's how patient and careful they were. But these days, that does not appear anyway. You know, things have to be done rush, and in the process, certain people are left behind.
Mantashe, your national chair, said those people who don't want to toe the party line are clearly tired with being part of the ANC, and perhaps it's time to leave the organization. If individuals are as aggrieved as you're describing, if there's no voice as you're describing, why still stay?
Well, I think Mantashe was harsh to people who have served their entire lives in the organization. People like Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma have been there in this organization long before Mantashe even knew about the ANC, or Lindiwe Sisulu, or Zweli Mkhize, you see. And so I think it's disingenuous on his part to say if people disagree with him and his supporters, then they're tired of the ANC. I don't think so. I don't think these comrades are tired of the ANC. That's why they're still there even today.
There is a sense that the current NEC, they're daggers out for individuals, that everybody is vying for blood, and yet you're all supposed to be representing an entity of this organization. Where does it end? Will it ever end?
It has to end at some point. If and when we stop chasing individuals who don't agree with our views. Because I feel that in this instance of being disqualified to stand for the NEC, I was being victimized without any reason. If the comrades like Khalima and his committee wanted a process, a fair process of disqualification or vetting, they should have called me and said, Comrade Tony, there's this, there's that, and the other. What is your answer to this? Nothing of the sort. The next thing I was confronted by a letter of disqualification. What do you call that? What is that?
So what I'm saying is 4 days is not enough to get over this us and them. Even the way that you've just referred to it, Khalima and his committee, you are absolving yourself of this electoral committee that has been established within your organization. You know, it's almost as if it's an enemy camp that was sent after you. So that's my question, that ultimately, what happens after Nasrec? Can you still have an organization that you believe you can sell to South Africans as an organization worth trusting when this is the way you treat each other?
We want unity. And some of us have been in this NEC from Nelson Mandela, and we experienced different ways of managing the ANC. But the current style of management is actually the very essence of what brings about tension and divisions. Because comrades are simply not patient with each other. They treat each other like enemies, as you're saying. Why was I treated like this? I didn't deserve this. I did not. I should have been treated much, much better than how I was treated by this elections committee. And no apology has come my way to say, we see our error, we apologize. Nothing.
But do you not see yourself as having any role and responsibility in that? Because even in the way that you're speaking now, you are referring to the current leadership as individuals that, of course, again, seem to be driven by their own motives. So I'm saying, should it not be coming from both sides?
Well, my view is that this committee and its rules must be subjected to a debate and a discussion at conference so that the branches of the ANC can express themselves and agree on these rules. Otherwise, if they are imposed on conference and certain people are disqualified unfairly, that's going to create even more problems as far as I'm concerned.
Tony Yengeni, we'll leave it there for tonight. Of course, there's still a lot to get through over the next couple of days with the Nasrec conference getting underway. But of course, he has been allowed to come back then into the running in as far as contesting a position for the NEC is concerned.